Business is like a war. To win a war, you need to win the battle. And to win a battle, you need to pick your small fights, right? And in order to do that, you don't have to spread yourself too thin. You can't really, I mean, solve all the problems at the same time. We all know probably manufacturing industry is having problems, technical industries are having problems, healthcare is facing so many issues. Build your niche, pick up one thing.
Welcome to the Business Narrative. It's me, Vajihan Nateem. Today, our guest is Umair. So, Umair, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
I'm also doing great. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your journey?
A nice question. Where to start from? That's what I've been watching and looking forward to. And first of all, thank you so much for having me on board. So I am Umair. I have been doing quite a few things in my professional career. I started my journey back in 2013 when I moved from Pakistan to UAE. All in all, I have been into logistics ecosystem, right? Logistics, supply chain strategy. That's have been my core across the years. I worked at Pepsi as in supply chain, and within the supply chain domain, I then back in 2016 I joined Fetcher, which is at that point one of the biggest startups in, according to Forbes, that was one of the biggest startups in the space of e-com and logistics ecosystem. And then later on, back in 2017, I joined Talabat, which is one of the biggest food aggregation platform or food tech space backed by Delivery Hero, and spent close to 7 years within Talabat, been part of their multiple markets, launched multiple markets. I can still remember back in 2017, I was hired by Talabat as the second hiring of operations, or let's say third hiring of operations. So I know still the days where almost a week we did not receive an order, and after almost a week we received the first order, and now Talabat is delivering millions of orders or experiences towards the consumer, towards the customer base. So yeah, all in all, and then post 2023, I've been part of a local Qatari startup which is called Baladi Express. I was there in the capacity of chief operating officer. Uh, but one thing which has always remained with me for quite some time is to start something of my own, which I have been fondly thinking of for past, it's 2.5 year, and then finally decided upon on hanging up my boots towards my professional life and start and begin my journey of the founder or wearing a hat of entrepreneur. So yeah, all in all, I would say 10 to 11 years into startups to corporates to ideally baseline of the brands, but yes, few of them were the biggest brands within this part of the world. So yeah,
So, basically, you did your master's from Pakistan and then you shifted to for your job to the UAE.
my
Did
family was living here, right, in back in UAE, right. So after completing my studies, I just finally decided upon switching to my professional career in UAE. And in Pakistan, I have done quite a few things in Pakistan. I was representing the youth affairs in the Parliament of Pakistan. I was also doing some public speaking. But yeah, that was more of temporarily roles which were part of me. But yeah, the full time, yes, I moved to UAE back in 2013.
So, how did all these roles prepare you for the entrepreneurship journey?
Look, um, I would say if one name stands out is obviously Talabat, right? Which has given me the opportunity and the platform itself, where I have worked with few of the brilliant minds who came across from the central teams to the local teams. There are like quite a few. Like I consider myself very fortunate that I I happen to have some great people around me. That is one of the cores which I believe that in startup, like you always have that kind of a mindset, right? Of growth, of of trying something new, or of trying something which is different. So that has always been a part of me, and that has left a very lasting impression on my personality, and that's what enrolled, or that's what uh, pushed me towards. I mean, on getting along on a founder's journey. Yeah.
By the way, you were like doing a very stable job. So, what was the defining moment? Like, do you think like, okay, let's start your my own business?
Look, after a certain part of in your career, you feel like the things are stagnant, and you want to try something. You want to try out something else, and that was exactly the moment at the end of 2023 when I started realizing a couple of, I would say, years ago, that the things were like really stable, things were really stagnant, nothing much. The processes which you wanted to improve, relatively our industry is new, but still the processes were very streamlined, and that's where I felt like there are things which I cannot add up anymore, right? And that's where I decided upon let's try to build something, let's try to explore something, and that has always been the case with me that I wanted to start. But yeah, I felt like I mean it was a bit late, but yeah, if given given a choice, I would start a bit earlier. But yeah, that's the way how it is.
But from my point of view, it's a very big transition from being an employer to an employee. So, what was your point of view in this?
Look, even if you look at my career, it was always based on the startups or based on the industries which no one has ever heard of, right? In a B2C consumer base. But if you go back to 2015, 2016, nobody would have thought of delivering daily essentials from groceries to your food cravings to your convenience at your doorstep in, let's say, merely 20 to 30 minutes. But it made, I mean, then it became a reality, and then it thrived back in COVID, where the world was under the lockdowns and shutdowns, and only the source of convenience or source of food was these online platforms. So that's a transition, right? Which I felt like, I mean, that has enabled me to do something which has not been done, at least in this part of the world, which space I'm into digitizing the B2B logistics or B2B procurement, right? So yeah, that was one of those things like that has enabled me over the period of my career, and yeah, here I am.
So, for example, if someone wants to start a business from scratch, like he wants to build a platform like B2B logistics services, so what are the footsteps they have to follow?
Uh, First of all, do really your due diligence, right? On I always quote Jack Ma into it, right? Today is difficult, tomorrow is going to be much more difficult, but the day after tomorrow is beautiful. So I think resilience is one of those things. Anything in B2B, when B2C relatively is a consumer, again, there's no comparison between these two spaces. But I think relatively to convince the businesses is a bit harder, right? So I believe like you need to have that resilient mindset, and you have to have that patience within you in order to overcome, I think, these challenges or these stepping stones which will come across your journey. I think one thing which I would really recommend to someone out there who inspired to be an entrepreneur, inspired to be a founder, is that um, they need to have a thick skin, right? Be able to take all the bullets, right? Because I mean, when things don't go your way, I mean, you are responsible for your own people, you are responsible towards your investors, you're responsible towards your stakeholders, you're responsible towards your consumers, or in our cases, business is a consumer. So that's ideally like how I look at it is you need to really um, patient and resilient. That's the least that's the like bare minimum requirement you need to have.
As you have mentioned that it's really difficult to convince the businesses. So what's your marketing strategy? You think it's best to attract the business?
Again, with everything going around on AI and all of that, I think I still believe that the businesses still have the human touch, and it's going to have the human touch for at least next couple of years. So I think the relationship and like with the growth mindset, you can always go into the market. It's always good to be ambitious. Um, is always is always good to be a voice of your consumer or your customer or your clients. But at the same time, I think what really matters is your long-term relationship with your clientele, right? How can you solve the problems, right? So in our space, what we are trying to do is we are trying to disrupt our industry, which is, I think, one of the very few um, oldest professions which is being left is the trading, right? And we are trying to digitize that. So I know its life is not going to be easy, and to convince people out of it, I think the best marketing strategy that I would see is showcase them. It's more towards right. I would say the best marketing strategy would be the client relationship management, right? Or how you can make their life easy, how your product is right up there, which can enable them to conduct their businesses efficiently and optimize their operations and reduce their costs. So that is what I believe should be your best marketing strategy, whether it be in a digital form or whether it be in an offline form. I think that should be your best guideline or handbook towards your marketing.
How you manage it without a portfolio and starting when we don't have any portfolio?
First of all, I think it all comes down to a point that building a right product, right? When your product is right, start with on a smaller scale, right? Start digitizing it or start optimizing the operations on a smaller scale. And once actually people see the dependency, or I mean, if it actually, uh, so once you build a product, launch it in a certain group of businesses, right? Which you possibly can. It's it's not really looking at the top line or the I mean in terms of as a startup. I mean again, it, your product should be commercially viable, right? That's being number one. And in the beginning, you should not even look at the commercial viability altogether. What you should really look at is the how stable your product is and what kind of problem you are trying to solve. I think if you know these answers to these two questions, and if your product is right up there, which can compete with the industry, I think you can convince the businesses that on a smaller scale, that this is the product, this is the right niche for you, this is the right product for you. And from there on, start building on your consumer base or your business base, right? Or your client base altogether. If because look, I believe as an entrepreneur and as a founder that I think fairly you get only one good chance. You really need to make sure that you have the right um, people with you, and second most important is the right product at your disposal. So yeah, I think if you have those and if you believe that it can solve the problem of that particular niche, I think people would go for it, or the businesses would go for it. And then the
Uh,
resilience comes into the picture, right? So how resilient you are. Probably you're gonna receive 1,000 uh, rejections before proceeding towards one acceptance. Is a similar, right? I mean, and once you go into your fundraising, I still remember when we were looking for the investors. Um, I mean, we received multiple rejections. People were like literally laughing at us, right? I mean, like what kind of product you have, what are you trying to achieve? But eventually, yes, there is always someone who believes in you. There is always someone who can who can understand the business idea and who can, I mean, walk along with you, right, in your journey.
so when we are targeting the businesses, so should we have to opt for the specific niche, like whether we are like have to opt the healthcare, or we should go for the manufacturing industry or someone else?
Um, um, if you are trying to hit five targets at the same time, I think I believe like if nine rabbits on the floor, you should focus on one, right? If you focus on business is like a war. To win a war, I mean, you need to win the battle, and to win a battle, you need to pick your small fights, right? And in order to do that, you don't have to spread yourself too thin. So you can't really, I mean, solve all the problems at the same time. We all know probably manufacturing industry is having problems, technical industries are having problems, healthcare is facing so many issues. Build your niche, pick up one thing you can, or and even not even picking up one thing, like in let's say production, right? A lot of restaurants they do face a problem of out of stock. They do face a lot of problems of the wastages. Pick up that niche in a very smaller scale, try to solve that, and try to build the building blocks along with it. So it's not really picking up a very large problem. It's also about how that large problem is divided into probably 20 different small problems. So try focusing on those small problems which is along the way, and then you can eventually fix that a bigger problem of the industry or of the niche or of the business itself, what you are trying to do. So that's my take on that.
So okay, let's assume you have to start your business from scratch. So what is the mistake you will not repeat in that journey?
Um, Everyone, including myself, we always try to get that inch perfect product. Sometimes it's not only about that, right? Sometimes it's also towards if you have product go into the market, uh, because products are not always perfect, right? You keep on enhancing your product. You keep, I mean, you listen to your consumers. You change according to that. You change your strategy. You change your product along the period of time. So I think a lot of founders, what they would end up drain so much of energy and time and resources is that building the right product. Yeah, again, your product should be acceptable in the market, but is don't look for the perfection, right? Because you will never be able to chase that down. I think if you have a right product, if you have an acceptable product to your consumer base or to your business base, I think go launch, and then based on the feedback which you receive from your business or from your clients or from your consumer, according to that, change your priorities, change your perspective of the business. So yeah, that one mistake
So
you should avoid by any means.
so how to retain the clients in this competitive environment?
Um, if you are addressing the right issues and if you are staying relevant in the market, when I say staying relevant is the price competition and giving this, I think two things play a very important role. One is your financial competitiveness, which is the pricing or what value you are offering your services. And second one is the what services you are providing it to towards your clients, right? So I think these two things are very crucial in terms of retention of any consumer or anything, and consumer or your client. I believe in that way, I mean, if you are relevant in both of these things, I think you will always have, I mean, retention. You will always have clients stick to you if you're taking care of their budgets and if you're providing them an exceptional service levels. I don't see any reason for a client to move away from your platform.
So low pricing strategy will help in retention of the clients.
Not really low pricing strategy, but I think staying relevant in terms of your pricing is the is the is the benchmark. So you should stay relevant according to your market standards. That's all.
If you have to give one advice to the entrepreneurs that are going to start the business in your niche,
One advice. I mean, there are quite a few of them. Um, what I would say is be patient, be resilient. Right. I think always you don't have time on your side, but again, I think it depends on on the founders itself that how resilient they are in terms of their personality, how object oriented they are, right? Um, I mean, again, know really well what are you trying to solve. Is it should not be a mixture of a lot of things in the very beginning. Uh, Pick a niche, pick on something which you can solve, and be a master at it. And I think life is going to become much easier.
it's really nice talking to you. Thank you so much. By the way, how can people connect you?
People connect me.
Yeah.
People can connect me like whatever the modes of. I mean, people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I mean, for any piece of advice. People can reach out. I mean, there are multiple ways of interaction, right? I mean, LinkedIn is the most professional one, so I prefer that. People, I mean, definitely can reach out on my LinkedIn on any sort of uh, advice. I would love to help with the younger generation as well, or I mean, anyone who is tapping into journey of a founder. Yes, definitely. Please feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to help, and I can tell you the things to. I can give you a checklist of what to avoid, what to do, and what not to do, based on again my exposure towards this world. Yeah. So yeah, and they can reach out definitely via LinkedIn.
Thank you. Bye bye.
You.